Well, welcome to the Real Life, Real People, Real Stories podcast. Today we have a treat for you, everyone. We have a young lady who is a rising star in Hollywood. She's been in the army, would you believe? She's an expert in martial arts. So, I mean, that's really scary from all these points of view. Welcome to the podcast, Cheyenne Rae Hernandez.
Hi, thank you.
You're a long way from home too. I noticed you're actually from somewhere nowhere near at the moment. You're in Melbourne, Australia, but
Yeah.
you're not from here by your accent. Where are you from?
No, I'm from El Paso, Texas. So right on the border of Mexico.
So most of us only know that through the movies. What's that like?
Oh, I love El Paso. I love El Paso. I mean, growing up there was such a blessing. We're a different kind of people in El Paso. I noticed the last time I went to go visit, it was really interesting because I was getting out of my car to go into a restaurant, and the people that were at the door of the restaurant held that door open until I got out of my car and got all the way to the restaurant. I mean, like, it's just different kinds of people. I love El Paso.
So is that where your family was from?
Yes. Well, I have family in Mexico, and I have family in El Paso and San Antonio.
I say, so you grew up, you went to school and all that down there?
Yes.
So what was that like in having the family at home and then going off to school from what I gather, you've always wanted to be in acting. Was that something that you did at school or?
No, it wasn't. I have always wanted to be an actress. Both my brother and I, we really, really wanted to act. We used to reenact commercials. We put on magic shows for our family. We always loved to perform.
Yeah.
And in high school, I was in ROTC. I was in the flags team with the band. So I was really a hands-on type of person, and I didn't really find theater to be my thing. I think that people that are in theater are way more ballsy than I am because I actually get stage fright. I'm totally okay in front of a camera, but yeah, theater freaked me out when I was younger, so I didn't do it.
So what were you like as a student?
I was awful. I was terrible. I used to take, I remember I used to get yelled at because I would take a bowl and a spoon and a whole thing of milk and cereal, and I would eat cereal in geometry. And so my teacher was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't eat today." I was a terrible child. But yeah, and then
did it bore you, or just you weren't good at it, or what was it about school?
I don't know. It's if like, I mean, I have my associates in college and I hated college. I don't want to go back to college at all. I just hated it. But having said that, when I joined the military, when you go to get your license to become an EMT, to be a medic in the military, it's kind of all condensed, and you have to do what normal people that want to be an EMT spend months and months and months on. We only have a couple of months to get it all and pass that exact same test. And I rocked that. I was great at it, but I think it's because it was a short. It was like, okay, I know that I have to hunker down and do this, and I will do it. And then I got through it, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm done. Thank God I never have to do that again. But yeah, so if I'm passionate about something like acting, I mean, if you give me a script, I'll have that whole thing memorized in a few days. But if you give me a book on math and stuff, I'll just get bored and I won't want to look at it.
So it sounds like unless you love it and then you focused on it, you don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
Which is what most successful people are like. It's not a bad thing. It's really not.
Yeah, I can't lie. I wasn't the greatest student. I wasn't the greatest soldier either, to be honest.
Speaking of that, how did they react at home when you came home and said, "Hi guys, I'm going to be a soldier," and they looked at you and went, "You're what?"
Nah, that wasn't great. I had warned them before that I wanted to do it. I joined Police Explorers. Like I said, I was in ROTC, and then when I turned 16, I went and I started the Future Soldier program. So that's pretty much you do a mini swear in. So you swear in once, and then you start training with the the recruiters, and so you're getting up really early and you're training pretty much to go to boot camp, well, to basic training. And so my mom was wary, but she didn't quite know that I was 100% going to do it. And then I told her I want to go be an EOD, which is explosive ordnance disposal, to go blow stuff up pretty much. And she said, no way. She's like, you're 16, so I'm going to hang on for as long as I can. She's like, I'm not signing for you to join the military. And so she wouldn't sign for EOD. And so I told her, oh, well, look, I'll go in and be a medic then. It's kind of, I was like, I'm going to be a nurse in a hospital. And she's like, okay, that sounds reasonable. And so they signed, not knowing that I was going to be one of the first females attached to an infantry unit. But so that was fun, telling them that now I was an infantry combat medic. So my first letter from her to me in basic training was not happy, but yeah, they eventually warmed up to it. I mean, they were not supportive about it at first, but guess who were the ones cheering me on when I graduated basic training, you know? So they came around, and now they're really proud.
So where was your first deployment?
I didn't get deployed. And I know that it's weird saying this, but I was bummed that I didn't. It was like you train and train and train and train. We were supposed to get deployed at one point, so we went on a pre-deployment to the Mojave Desert.
Yes.
And I was training and I was excited, and I wanted to get my hands dirty and really get to use all of these new skills that I had. I mean, I was learning how to cut people open and sew them back together, and I was really excited about it. I love blood and gore and stuff. It's awful. But so I was really excited, and then it never happened. So I know when the scare for Korea started happening and stuff, everyone was talking, and I thought I was going to get to, work more. And didn't happen. So I was bummed, but it's at the same time, it sounds weird saying that, because I don't want to go to war, obviously. I think it was more of I wanted to showcase and experience all of my new medical training that I had done, which I did get to work in emergency cases at some point. So I did get to use those skills, and I was really excited to do that.
So what was the one thing that you learned in your 4 years in the armed forces?
Oh man, one thing that I really zeroed in on, you have to understand, they're not really 100% comfortable with women being in the infantry. And so I was bullied a lot. If I wasn't getting hit on, I was getting threatened. I mean, it was not fun to be a girl there. And I had a lot of really awful experiences. And so I kind of went into myself, and I didn't go out. If I was invited, I eventually stopped getting invited to parties because I just never went. And what I would do is I would go buy pigskin. My Sergeant Van taught me this. He got me pigskin one time, and he taught me how to suture on the pigskin. So I would go buy pigskin, and all weekend long I would sit there and watch Game of Thrones or Walking Dead and just sew pigskin back together. So by the time I got to actually suture a human, people were like, oh, wow, this is awesome, because I was like, do you want a scar? And some soldiers were like, yeah, give me a scar, give me a good one, doc. And some of them were like, no, just get it straight. And so I got really good at suturing. So I really liked that.
So the guys and girls that you were treating when they came in that were injured, was that just during basic training, or was that when they were doing actual work in the States?
No, I was stationed Schofield Barracks, so this was over in Hawaii, and I mean, a lot of the injuries were training injuries. So you're doing simulations that it looks and feels like you're actually in wartime. I mean, we have these whole cities pretty much that have other soldiers pretending to be insurgents and stuff, that you're going in and you're clearing the buildings, you're jumping out of windows and stuff like that. So a lot of it is just, oops, messed up. Or, one time we had a striker roll over and a bunch of soldiers got banged up with that. Car crashes and stuff. Those are the ones that stay with you too. Like, I'll never forget the first person I lost, So it was interesting. It was a good experience though. It really good experience. I feel like when I came out of the Army, I understood a lot more of the world than other people my age did. And so, I mean, even now, I don't think I have really close friends that are like any younger than 40 in their 40s. So
So you would say the Army sort of, I don't know if it's not the right word, but it's, made you grow up quicker than other kids the same age as you.
definitely, because I signed when I was 16 and left when I was 17. So I never had those college years. I never had those messing around years. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of had to go from kid to adult very quick.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but to be in an infantry unit where a lot of people don't like women, I had to go from learning how to be a regular adult to now learning how to be an adult that knows how to fly under the radar and not get seen. I didn't wear makeup. I dressed down a lot. If anyone asked me, if we were like, "Oh, Doc, like, I never see you dating around. Are you gay?" And I'm like, "Yep." And like, I was just like, I figured that if I was going to get called names anyways, and I was going to get treated a certain way anyways, I wanted to control what was being said. So I decided to just be the, I don't know if I can cuss on here, but the BITCHY medic.
Yes, you can say that. Yeah. I mean,
I
that's what
decided
it
to be
is.
I decided to be the bitch. And so if, it sucked. And I'm not mean. I mean, like I love people. And so I remember at first I had a first sergeant tell me, he's like, "Private, get over here." And so I went to parade rest and I said, "Yes, first sergeant." And he's like, "Stop saying hi to people. Stop being nice." And he's like, "If you want to make it here, you have to be a bitch. Got it?" And I never forgot that. And so I was like, "Roger, first sergeant." And he walked away. And so I remember I don't remember what they said. And I clapped back and I walked away and I was like, like, cause like I had to pretend to be this like really mean person. And sometimes it was funny and sometimes it really took its toll. Like I would walk away and be like, "Oh, this isn't me." I felt like I was screaming and pulling my hair, just I wanted to be me.
I think what you're talking about, with a lot of people not liking a woman in what they perceive as a man's job, and that's what it's coming down. That's what we call a learned behaviour, where it's sort of ramped into people. You have no right to be here. You should be at home. All that type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
And I mean, it's totally wrong, but it's what they don't know any better, and that's not an excuse. That's what they're taught, and you have to break that. Do you think it's getting better now in the armed forces? Or do you think they set the bar so much more higher for a woman in the armed forces now to get there? And by the time they get there, they're real hard nosed.
Yeah, definitely. They do set the bar pretty high. I did have a few experiences though that I took a lot away from. There was this one guy, and I won't say his name, but he came in one time, and he didn't even have a bad injury, but he's like, "I want a male." And I was like, "Well, there's nobody else in the aid station. You got me." And he was like, "No, I don't want an effing female." Or he said something like that. And he was like, I said I want a male. And I had that moment of, do I call trying to find a male for this guy? And I was just so sick of people treating me like crap. And so I was like, "You know what? Then limp the F out of my aid station." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Go ahead, get out." And he walked out, and he wound up getting in a really bad accident later on, a really bad accident. And so he had to come into the aid station every single day for a while to get treatment, to get repatched up. And it got to the point where he was in there with another medic, and that medic was taking off his gauze without putting saline or anything. So so the gauze was essentially ripping off his skin.
Ouch.
And I saw what was happening, and I was like, whoa, hold on. And I stepped in and I finished it. And from that point on, every single time he came to the aid station, he was like, I need Hernandez. And he actually apologized later on, and he said it. He's like, yeah, that wasn't fair, and he apologized. And
that's good.
It was just, it was really cool. And so I had, he was really that taught me that yes, there was that initial thought about me being a woman and stuff, but that if I worked hard enough and I proved that I could zero in on my medical skills, that I could prove it. Like I could prove that I could be just as good, if not better, than some of the male medics. And I do remember too, later on, I was giving instructions to this person leaving the aid station on how to continue his treatment. And I remember a first sergeant, it wasn't even our first sergeant for a battalion, but he's like, man, he's like, you know your shit. And he's like, I didn't expect that. And I was like it was just crazy to hear that.
Yeah, look, I think I've come across people in many industries, and you sit there going, guys, really? Construction, a lot of those things, like you'd never see a lady in driving a truck. If you talk to anyone who work in the mines in Australia, they'll tell you the ladies drive the trucks better than the guys. And the guys don't like it, but they actually drive them. They're better drivers. They look after the trucks better, and the companies want them, because it also changes the locker room. The swearing diminishes, the bad behaviour diminishes, just because there's a female there, which is a positive thing. But
I'm not gonna lie, I joined in on the locker room stuff. Like, when you have to be a dude in the military, you join in on that conversation and stuff. And I very quickly learned how to speak the language. And I mean, my dad, my dad and my mom, they had me when they were very young, so they're like my siblings. and so I have that banter with my dad. I mean, he's always said extremely inappropriate but hilarious things in front of me. And so and then I also grew up with brothers. So when I got in the military, they would say something and they'd go, oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. And I would say something 10 times worse. And they're like,
I'll tell you a secret. Most guys do not like princesses. They don't like the ones that get offended at the snowflakes, that get offended at nothing.
Oh yeah. You have to fit in there. You do. You have to kind of conform to an extent to be able to I guess communicate. And it's a very dark humor as well, and I've always had a pretty dark humor, so I fit in with that part. I did fit in, and I made some really good friends too. So
awesome. So you got out of the military after you had an accident?
That was one of the pre-deployments that we had. I was thrown across LMTV. So
what's that?
I woke up. An LMTV, it's the really, really, really big military vehicle that carts usually the soldiers back and forth from places. That you always see them loaded up in the back. We were in the Mojave Desert, and I wasn't supposed to be the medic in the back of that LMTV. It was supposed to be a different medic, but I can't remember what he was doing. And so they were like, okay, it was like 3:00 in the morning. We got a call about a mass cal, which is mass casualty. I think that they had said a striker rolled over or something like that. So they're like, okay, Hernandez, get in the back. We got to go. And so I get on, and nothing was strapped down in the back, which is really, really bad. And I guess they left it to do later, but never got around to it. And so they're like, we don't have time. Let's go. So I remember holding on to the bar, and then I remember when we hit a bump, I saw an MES chest fly up, and I think I did that, and that's the last thing. I woke up and I had blood coming out of my ears, my nose. I had a traumatic brain injury. I can't feel this pinky and this finger, and most of this arm. So yeah, it was a pretty bad accident on my part. And they said that I got out and cussed out first sergeant because he wanted to take me back to the aid station and get me treated. I don't remember that at all. I don't remember saying anything to him, but I went to apologize to him later, and he's like, it's fine. It was like a little hamster yelling at me. I don't remember that. But yeah, they said that I tied something around my face, and I kept saying Charlie Mike, which means continue mission. Let's keep going. And so, but it's funny because the military is kind of like high school in a way with the rumors, because I remember for weeks after that, soldiers were coming up to me and they're like, oh, Doc, we heard that you fell out of the LMTV and you were getting dragged behind it, and they kept going, and I was like, yeah, and then I was found by a whole group of cougars, and they took me into their home, and they treated me like one of their own. And they would like, and I'm like, yeah, see how stupid you sound? No, go away. Like it's like it's like the rumors go nuts there.
Wow. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. You got out of there. You had a few challenges in your life, like a lot of people do at some time during their life. And you decided that you wanted to chase your first love, and that was off to Hollywood.
Yep.
How did you get to Hollywood? And I think that probably the training that you had in the armed forces, from what I hear, probably looked after you a little bit in Hollywood when you were having a bit of a tough time there.
It did, especially because I was homeless for a while in
Yeah.
Hollywood. If I was living out of my car or staying on the couch with friends.
Yep.
And it was kind of like back and forth, back and forth. I didn't like to be a burden to anybody, so it was like I tried to just keep moving if I could.
Yep.
And so yeah, an event I was interning for this acting program, and I was sleeping in the parking lot actually of Universal Studios because it was being held at Universal Studios. And then eventually I worked my way up to getting a job offer at a different acting company, acting program. And I was able to afford my first apartment in LA, which was over by Compton. And then I booked tax collector. So I was literally going to training all day long, because I had to go into martial arts training. So I was doing that training, and then I was going to rehearsal. By the time I was getting home at night, it was really, really late, and that apartment complex, it was really, really cheap, so there was no parking, and I had to park like all the way down a couple blocks away. And so I was walking with a bat for a while from my car to get home, car home. And so yeah, I think that being in the military, though, gave me that confidence to be able to like know my surroundings, look around, and know that if anything happened, I would be able to handle the situation.
When you were living in your car at that time, did you ever feel this isn't worth it, I'm going back home to El Paso?
No. Mm-mm.
What kept you going?
Honestly, my brother Isaiah and I, we really wanted to do it. We really, really wanted to get out there and act and make it. And so him and my brother Josh, they were killed by a drunk driver on Christmas Eve 2014. And so the Army, I went crazy pretty much, and the Army put me on really, really heavy meds, just kind of, I guess, calm me down. And I wasn't chasing the dream. So I got out of the military, moved to Seattle. I thought maybe that might be a mini LA, and it wasn't. I was still coping with now being off of my meds, because when I got out of the Army, I was like, I'm not taking anything anymore. I was a zombie. It was crazy. And so I was like, I'm not going to take anything anymore. I need to work on myself. I need to chase my dreams. But I wasn't doing it. I was suicidal. I was just absolutely depressed. I was just in a really, really, really bad place. And so by the time I decided to go to Hollywood, I was either going to die or go to Hollywood. There was no in between. And so the way I saw it is Hollywood was my last chance. So I didn't have anything to go back to. I knew that if I went back to El Paso, I'd lose myself. So that was my motivation, was, I promised my brother I'm going to do this for both of us. And when times got hard, and I knew that if I called my family, they would say, oh, just come home. So I couldn't do that. I knew if I told my friends, they'd say, oh, we'll just come here. And I couldn't go anywhere else. I knew exactly where I needed to be, and I knew what I was working so hard for. And I feel like that's why I got tax collector, honestly, because you can't take no for an answer if that's what you want.
Yeah. Do you think sometimes people behave and achieve the most when there is nothing to fall back on?
Yes. I think that our comfort zones are our worst enemy, honestly.
Yeah. So you went from being in the Army, where they treated you pretty bad, and they wanted you're a girl, but you should have been a guy according to them. Yeah. Now you've gone to Hollywood, and that's got a totally different version of a lady. It's who they want. It's what they want. And yeah, the bullying's there and done in a different way, but they want a little pretty princess that's going to do what they're told and giggle, and you've got to flirt with all the directors and the producers, which is the exact opposite to what you had in the Army. How did you handle the shift from being this tough medic, and that's what you were, to trying to break it where I think it's less than 2% get to be super successful in a cutthroat industry where it, to be honest, doesn't have a good reputation on how it treats its ladies.
I'm still handling it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I never stop getting surprised though. Like it is crazy what people expect from women. But I remember I started doing tax collector, and I just my character, she's very sexy, sexual, dangerous. I had the dangerous part. I could fight, I could shoot, I could handle any weapon you want me to handle. The sexy part, that was really hard. So I mean, I had Shia LaBeouf took me salsa dancing to try to get me more into my body, kind of thing,
Yep.
and I wasn't. I was really bad. I I tried to what Cynthia Carmona, she tried to teach me how to dance. Lana Faria, she taught me how to put on my makeup and stuff. So it's like I had all this coaching on this is how you be a girl, this is how you're supposed to do it. And it helped me for my role. But in real life, I was still really struggling because I felt like I never really learned how to be myself. I went from high school to the military where I'm like, can't be myself here, went to Seattle, can't be myself there, Hollywood, couldn't be myself there.
No.
So I really did, it was this like, I just couldn't find my footing. I had no idea who I was. And it was my friend Chelsea Rendon, she's also a tax collector. And I've said this before, she's the one who sat me down and was like, stop trying to be everybody else's sexy. She's like, Cynthia's sexy in her own way. Lana's sexy in her own way. I'm sexy in my own way. She's like, you're sexy in your own way, where you can handle yourself. You're a badass fighter. You know how to handle your weapons. And so that was the first time somebody kind of sat me down and said, you're enough, just be yourself. And that's what got me that final push over the edge to be Gata, my character in the movie, because I realized that she was just an extension of me. And so I feel like in Hollywood now, I don't conform. I refuse. And I know people have told me in interviews like, oh, you know what, your interview was great, but you probably should be less of yourself. Or you shouldn't say this. And I'm like, you know what, I'm done pretending to be what everybody and their mother wants me to be. This is me, take it or leave it. Not everyone can handle me. That's fine. Like I finally accepted who I was. And in Hollywood, it is hard to do, but I'm sticking to it. I have my moments where girls will tell me like, oh my God, that's so adorable, and try to make me like, the condescending, like trying to make me feel bad about myself.
Well, I did look at some of the photos that you've got from the tax collector. And you are a very sexy lady in it, in control. I wouldn't call any of them adorable.
No, but about my experiences. They're like, oh, you haven't done that? That's adorable. Oh, you don't do that? That's so cute. And it's just like, I mean, it says more about them than it does about me. So I'm sorry, but if my daughter ever came up to me and said, should I be more like them? I would say, hell no, because they're not being themselves either. So it's just like, I feel proud of myself for the first time in a really long time that I've found who I want to be, and I'm just rolling with it.
That's awesome. It's I was reading about an article about, they were talking about the Australians that they used to, everyone had to go to Hollywood to get into movies. Now they don't. But they said the one thing that most of the Australian actors get the roles is because they refuse to conform. They refuse to the status quo of LA, Hollywood and all of that. And they're themselves. They don't care what the producers, the rest of them think. They say, hi, this is me. This is how I act. This is how I look. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
And it does scare a lot of people. That's why a lot of American companies employ Australians to go over and train in sales and speaking and that, because we just get out there and, say that. And I think for a young actress like you to come out and say, this is me, this is who I am, I think that's absolutely awesome. I think a lot of young ladies really could take that on board and stop trying to be someone else and just really honestly be them. It's
I feel like what people should be chasing is their happiness.
Yes.
I really do. I feel like I'm honestly the most successful person that I know, not because I've done anything huge, but because I I'm happy, and I'm completely myself. And it's like a just a boulder lifted off of your back when you finally realize that you are enough.
Look, I think when you turn and said, because you haven't done anything, if anyone goes through what you've achieved in your life from the age of 16 and on, you've really kicked some massive goals. And there's a lot of people out there wouldn't even dream of doing what you're doing, wouldn't even dream of sleeping in their car for a few months until they got a job. They would
Yeah,
take
that's
the
true.
easy way out and run home. And that's the truth. What was
But that's the thing, is they don't want it bad enough. So
yeah,
even if they were successful, it wouldn't be a huge success for them. I think
no.
that in order to be successful like that, like, I mean, you have to want it, you know. And that's what I have a lot of people ask me. I mean, I've only really been in one big role, but I've had
Mm,
people asking me, how did you do it? And what can I do to be in a movie like that?
yeah,
And it's just, you got to want it. Because have you ever, I read this book a long time ago when I was in sales. It's called Go for the No.
yeah,
Yeah. I like to tell people to read that book too, because it's like, if you're just going after opportunity, and you're getting told no, you're like, yep, thanks, but you're just like, you don't care if you're getting a no, because you're
yeah.
shooting for that yes, but you're expecting the no. Uh, and so it's like, that's kind of how I see auditions too. Is as soon as I'm done with the audition, I'm like, okay, done with it, moving on. If I hear something back, awesome. But if not, my mind is already over here.
Yeah.
So it's, you just can't take no for an answer.
I remember telling my son once when he was young and he was complaining about, things that young boys do. I said, look, I'd rather you go out at cricket, like your baseball, swing and get out, than sit on the sideline and carry the oranges.
Hmm.
And he went, oh. I said, have a go. What's it matter? What's the
Hmm.
worst they're going to say?
Hmm. The worst they can do is say no.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
remember, I remember talking when I was out working in another job, and we used to employ promotional girls to do, the free giveaways in the pubs and the clubs and all that. And there was one girl's working one night, and she was absolutely stunning. And I was just talking to her, and she was a university graduate and all that. She was just using it as money to get through. And I said, blah, blah, blah. And the other half, she went, no. I said, what? And I said, why? She said, guys are too scared to come up to her because she was a pretty girl.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty accurate.
she wasn't being, I am a pretty girl. She said, this is what I get told all the time. And I said, wow. And she said, yeah, it happens a lot. She said, mind you, I'm scared of walking up to a good looking guy and asking him as
Hmm.
well. So, it goes both ways. I said, imagine how much more fun people would have if they just got rid of all that and just walked up and said, g'day.
Yeah. I guess the worst thing can happen is a no, and that's not really that bad.
I'd
Um,
rather, I'd rather have a no than never know.
exactly. Completely. I completely agree with that, and that's why I think everything that I've done, I've had to at least try it. And
Hmm.
like I said, I hated college, but I went for it, tried
Yeah.
it. Nope, not my thing. But the
Sounds like
the
me.
worst that happened was I said no.
Fair enough. Now, you're living in Australia at the moment with your fiance.
Hmm.
Where did you meet him? Because New Zealand, Australia, and El Paso, I mean, they're not really next door to each other.
Yeah. So he's in aerospace actually. So he
Yeah.
goes back and forth from here to LA. And I like to invent things in my garage.
Yep.
And so I was tinkering and stuff, and I wanted to go to a couple of business mixers and stuff to just kind of get around people who have already done what I was trying to do.
Yep.
And business mixers, you get everybody there from
Hmm.
all walks of life, and I was really nervous to be there, and I was hanging out by the food there, and that was my comfort zone at the time, was the food.
Yes.
And he came up and said, are you here to do business with people, or are you just here for the food? And I
Well, that's
started
a good
laughing.
pickup line.
I started laughing. And long story short, the next day we went on a date. And yeah, we've just been inseparable, literally ever since. Our first date was a 13-hour date because we just kept going from different place to different place because we didn't want to end the date.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's just been. And then I came here for 4 days to visit him in the beginning of the pandemic and stuff,
Yep.
before everything happened.
Yep.
And I wound up not leaving. So I've been here for about 6 months now.
So, well, the line worked.
Yeah, it did. It sure did.
So I ask all our guests this question. Say you're back in LA at one of the top restaurants there with your lovely other half, and you got 3 or 4 spots sitting at the table there for free. You can invite anyone in the world. Who would you invite to sit down and have dinner with you, and why? Can be anybody. They don't have to be alive.
Oh, they don't have to be alive.
No, anyone. Who would really interest you?
Okay, so I guess people that people would know. The first answer would obviously be my brothers. I mean, I miss them. People. Let's see. Quentin Tarantino. I'm coming for him. I'm coming for him. I want to be in a Quentin Tarantino movie really bad.
Well, anyone who's seen The Tax Collector would want and understand why you want to be in a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah. I mean, it was the beginning of a complete obsession in action films because of Tax Collector. I mean, I remember the weapons guy, he came and he was trying to show everybody how to do, how to operate the different weapons. So he puts a shotgun in my hands and he's trying to show me everything about it. And so Shia is in the background, and so is David Ayer and Bobby Soto and them. And so they're all laughing in the corner because they know that I'm prior military, but I was trying to be polite, and I was just letting him do his thing. And then I hear one of them going, I think it was David, that was like, why don't you just let her shoot it, man? And so the guy, he gives me the gun and I just go off and I'm just shooting everything and I'm having a blast. And so they're like, oh my God, we didn't know you could do that. And so I went and I started meeting with the stunt guys and stuff. And they're like, yeah, we'll train you. We'll keep training you. So now I'm like, Quentin Tarantino, I am coming for you. I want to be in a movie so bad.
Awesome.
So yeah, I want to be in action films. I want to be able to handle the weapons and fight. I mean, I love karate. So it's my thing. So that, Johnny Depp, because I want to know how he gets into his roles, because each role that he plays, the character is so unique, and you just really believe that he is this character. And I feel very blessed that I got to learn from Shia LaBeouf how he does it, because he painstakingly sat there and literally listened, answered every single one of my questions, really helped me learn how to method act. So I want to hear from people like Johnny Depp, people like Meryl Streep, how they get into it too. I think that each actor's process is just really interesting. So let's see them. Margaret Thatcher, because I had no idea how amazing she was, but my fiance, he's kind of obsessed with her. He really looks up to her. And so when he started talking to me about her, and then I picked up her book, I mean, what a phenomenal woman. I just want to give her a hug, let's see. And probably Elon Musk too, because like I said, I like to invent things, and I like to tinker, and I would like to just sit down with him and really get to know what was going on through his head when he put all this stuff out there, The fear he must have felt too, the fear of failure. I think that's my biggest fear a lot of the times with this kind of stuff, is just that feeling of, if you get a no, it's gonna suck, but I don't want to fail either, So it's that fear of what happens when you tried it all, absolutely gave everything, and it still doesn't work out.
Yeah, well, they say failure is only feedback.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's true, because even if you fail in one way, you might win in a million other ways. So, that's a few of the people. I could probably go on and on about that though, because there's a lot of people that I really want to meet.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, Cheyenne. You are going to be a star, and I'm looking forward to one day where someone pulls this back up on YouTube when you're being interviewed on Today Tonight or Entertainment Tonight or one of those when you said, "Oh, what did you do when you got stuck in Australia for 6 months?" And you can talk about your first big movie and your first big break. I think awesome your story. I think
No, thank you so much.
A lot of people should really take the time to listen to this and learn a lot from you. You could have easily given up and you never did. And
No, I won't.
No. And
Yeah.
anyone listening to you knows you're not going to. Your
Yeah.
poor fiance, he's just going to have to put up with you.
Yeah.
And I know by you being a martial arts expert, he's not going to give you any lip.
No. And I'm Latina too, so he knows better.
So you're fiery. Hang on, you're fiery, you're sexy, you've got, martial arts, and you can stitch him back up.
Exactly. No, yeah, he can't. He can't win.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show. And we look forward to catching you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome. I hope you guys have a good day.
See ya.